Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Pete and this is Rugged Outdoors Guide. Today we're talking about a kayak. It's the Winner Colossus Pro Angler pedal drive kayak. We're going to talk about some of the features. Just want to thank my good friend Rob Grossi over at C&R Kayak in St. Catharines for generously lending me this kayak to review. You can check him out, crkayak.ca, and he will help you out. This is a really well-priced, full-featured or well-featured kayak. Let's go check out some of the features right now.
All right, some of the features are the one-piece paddle that's included. Now this one I'm showing you is a bit of an upgrade. It includes a clasp here that makes it a two-piece, and it's featherable, so you can twist it for various angles, feathering, if that works for you better. It includes a SW pedal propulsion. This is what's really cool here. See that? This is a pedal propulsion that's very similar to a Hobie Mirage Drive. I think that's probably what it's modeled after, and it doesn't use the propeller. It uses like diving flippers here. You can kind of see them underneath here a little bit, and it's just way more efficient than using a propeller, and it's also a lot easier. Your feet don't go round and round, they just simply go back and forth like this, right? And like many kayaks, it's got a tube frame seat, and you can put it in various configurations. So you got the taller position up here, and then there's the lower position. And of course, you strap down the front of your seat so it doesn't fall in the water, and also so that you don't do this while you're paddling. There's a hand-controlled rudder system here, again like most kayaks that have pedal drive. We've got two track mount rod holders here. I've got them installed near the front of the track system, one on each side here. And then you've got two trailing rod inserts right here. So I just use one for usually a net, and the other one sometimes has nothing in it. But they have flaps. These are recessed, right? So they don't stick up like the ones in the front. So it's got some storage areas. This one in the back doesn't have a liner in it, but you can stick a lot of stuff inside that is not too tall or too big. And then it's got another day hatch here. This one does have a little bit of an insert here. And of course you can always take that out, and then you've got even more storage. It's lockable. It's got 4 carry handles, so you can see one here under the paddle on this side. It's got one on the other side, and of course, like you would expect, most kayaks have one in the front, and then there's the one in the back. All right, so that's pretty standard, and it's helpful, so you can carry it a couple ways with different people. Like you can have two people carrying it on the side, or these two on the sides, of course, help you mount it. If you're mounting it on the roof of your car by yourself, there is a time when it's standing probably on its stern that you might want to grab the two side handles. So anyway, it's very versatile that way. Of course, it has the paddle holder on the side that's adjustable. And of course, just as a little side note, you probably already know this, but please do bring a paddle with you, okay? Wherever you go, it's always nice to have a backup. Don't rely 100% on the pedal drive. There's a bungee tie down here over a very large back end storage area. All right, so there's no shortage of storage. In fact, I can fit a whole other person back here in addition to the angler up here. All right, so up here it's got a forward hinged compartment, and this has got a gas cylinder, so it magically opens on its own, and quite a bit of storage. And then it's got a locking bungee cord here, so it does not open. All right, so it's got these saddle clips, whatever you call them, for accessory storage like GoPro mounts and things like that. And there's different attachment areas for various things around the entire unit. In fact, there's more back here, and by the way, there's screws back here, or screw holes for an insert, or not an insert, but an attachment for a rudder a removable rudder and a removable cart. But I don't have it on here because I don't need any of those. This one has a built-in rudder, and the cart, I'll show you that in a bit. It's better than the one that goes back here. It's easier on you as you're transporting it. And of course, as you would expect, right down here you can see there's a scupper hole for drainage for when you get water inside the kayak. And there's the plug, I'll just leave that there. And there are a couple more in the back here, but right now, as you can see, I've got a couple of clips here holding these two posts sticking out here, and this is actually the cart that I'm using. So normally it's not here, and there's a couple of holes that need plugging. They don't actually need plugging, but it just prevents water from coming in. If you put some pressure on here, it won't come in if you've got the plugs. And then if you get water inside the actual mold itself, which is quite possible because you can get it through some of the storage areas, it's got these drain plugs with the O-ring, and you can just drain your water with that. This unit back here is just a cover for the rudder operation mechanism underneath. Okay, if you've been watching any of my videos, you'll know that I really love fishing. That's kind of why I have most of my crafts, my canoes and kayaks. So this particular accessory is near and dear to me. It's a trolling motor mount, and it's made to fit all Winner kayaks, and it really just screws in with its own. But I don't have the bolts right here with me at the moment, but it does. It screws right through here into one of these accessory holes, whatever you call them, and there you go. There is a trolling motor mount. Really simple, really close to the kayak, but just far enough to mount your motor. And the other really cool thing is, you probably don't even need that if you've got the pedal drive, because that's like your trolling motor. You just kind of gently go along. It's really efficient. But the other cool thing is that you can get an accessory in here that is a trolling motor, electric trolling motor, and you just pull this out and it drops right in there. So how cool is that? You have 4 options here for moving this kayak. How many kayaks can you say that with? You've got the pedal drive, you've got the electric trolling motor that can go in there, of course you have your paddle, and you've got another trolling motor mount back here. So wow. And one of the other things I'll just mention here by the by, there's a couple of trays in here for just stuff. There's a drink holder and another long tray back here. I don't see that on a lot of other kayaks, so I wouldn't put anything super important there, but you can drop a small jig or lure that you're maybe doing a quick change on or something and put it in here and it'll be fine. I do know that this particular model is wider than normal, all right, and I'll get into the specs in a second, but it is very, very stable. That's one of the reasons that I would choose the Winner over a couple other ones, even as good as Ascend is. Their kayaks are typically longer and a little bit less sturdy. All right, guys, just before we take it out onto the water, let's get into some of the specifications of what you're getting here. So the length of it is 10 feet 6 inches long. All right, now a lot of fishing kayaks are longer than that. They're 11, 12, 13, 14 feet. I've looked into some of them. I typically like longer boats, but mostly for efficiency in canoes. But that's not what we're looking for in a fishing kayak. I'm just wanting stability in a fishing kayak and adequate storage, but I don't want excessive length because then it becomes awkward to handle. So this particular one, the length is virtually perfect for me to put it on my vehicle, take it off, and to handle the overall weight and bulkiness of it. Don't need it any longer. I can even fit 2 people on here. On the back, I can fit my daughter. She can just sit there and hang out with me while I'm fishing. It's that capable. So it's 35 inches wide. 35 inches wide is a little bit wider than quite a number of other fishing kayaks I've tried, or I've researched anyway, and to me that says stability, which I'm all about. What I'm going to want to do is stand up in here, and we're going to see how effectively I can do that and how sturdy it is when I stand up. So my hopes are pretty high because I know the dimensions of this will work perfectly for what I'm looking for. All right, so the depth of it, or the height of it, top to bottom, is 13.3 inches. I would say that's about average. I don't need it to be any different for any particular purpose. The weight of this whole unit, 69.9 pounds. All right, it's not the lightest in the world, but it is definitely manageable, and especially with the pedal drive, that's about the range that you can expect these things to weigh. Even some of the more expensive ones that are cost you $3,000 to $4,000 in approximately this size with a pedal drive, it's about the same weight. The capacity of the Colossus Pro Angler is 352 pounds, more than adequate. I weigh 173-ish, and anything else I have isn't even going to approach that, even if I throw another human being on here. The material that it's made out of is high-density polyethylene, HDPE. Now, there's some controversy if you do some research on HDPE, which is high-density plastic, basically, polyethylene, and low-density polyethylene. Kayaks are made with either of those, and each one of those boasts its positives and its negatives, and of course, if a kayak company makes it out of low density, they'll tell you why that's better. I don't really know. I've done a bit of research, and generally speaking, across the board, everyone agrees that high density is just simply stronger. There's less give, less tensile, whatever they call it, but that's to be understood. And do you really need that in a kayak to be twisty, or do you want more rigidity and overall strength? So for me, I'll go for the high density. That's what the Colossus has. So the Colossus is rated for flat water, not white water, all right? So don't bother taking it into any serious rapids. You're probably gonna have an accident that we don't wanna hear about. So flat water, but it's also rated for slightly bigger water. You can take it out on the ocean. Now, if you're into ocean kayak fishing, I would get a specifically ocean kayak fishing design kayak, all right? So they exist. This is not it. All right, so it can handle some stuff in the ocean, but you know, you want probably as big and bulky as you can get when you're out on the bigger waves. So I'm going to take this out soon onto Lake Ontario. We're going to see how it works. I don't know how well, you know what, we'll see how big the waves are. If they're ridiculously big with huge white caps, I'm not going to bother. All right, so anyway, but that's kind of the rating for it, and so it gives you a little bit more confidence than, say, a smaller version of like a sit-in kayak that has like a rounded hull, which isn't as sturdy. This hull is amazing. When you look at the bottom of the hull, it's got like I don't know what you want to call them, keel lines or ridges, which help for tracking straight as well as stability. So this is something that I looked for when I was I was hoping to see this on a fishing kayak, and I see it on this one. Thrilled to see this type of design on the hull. So you're probably wondering, what on earth does this thing cost, right? That's kind of the big elephant in the room. Well, if you're watching this after the year of 2022, in which I'm making this video, who knows what it's going to cost, right? It could be more or less, whatever. But when I'm making this video at this moment, the manufacturer's suggested retail price of the Winner Colossus Angler Pro is, drumroll, $2,595 Canadian, which translates to, I don't know, something like $2,000, $2,100 maybe US, right? That is on the good side for a really effective pedal drive system that is not a propeller. All right, this operates on the, by the way, the pedal system operates on the principle of like a diver's flippers, right? They kind of go like this, and they push water forward that way. This is how this works, and so you require much less energy. Sometimes you can just pop your feet back and forth a little bit gently, and you're still moving. You don't have to wind them around like a bicycle, which is required with the pedal drive systems. All right, so if you connect with my friend Rob Grossi over at CNR Kayak in St. Catharines, Ontario, which is where I got this kayak, he'll give you $100 off at least of the MSRP, which is kind of a big deal in this industry because the margins, trust me, the margins are not high. I know what they are. I won't tell you what they are, but I was talking to Rob about it, and they're not high, really. The vast majority of money being spent on this kayak is being spent by the retailer buying it from the wholesaler, and then a tiny amount of money is made between the wholesaler and the final purchaser. That I can tell you for sure. And for him to knock $100 off is kind of a big deal. And I asked him why he did it, and the only reason he does it is because he doesn't have a retail showroom. He kind of does, but it's kind of more of a warehouse, so he doesn't pay for employees and constant, like, running the store for 8 or 10 hours a day. So he can afford to sell for less than MSRP, the retail suggested price, and he always does. So you want to make sure you connect with him. If you're anywhere in Southern Ontario or Western New York State, get a hold of Rob over at C&R Kayak. You can see him online at crkayak.ca.
Okay, so we finally have the Winner Colossus Angler Pro on the water. I've been on the water for about half an hour, and I can tell you some of my first impressions. Anyway, one of the things I can tell you is that the pedal drive is just a wonderful thing. I'm not getting wet from any dripping water. Oh, that's perfect. That's what I was hoping for. And I'm moving about as fast as I would be with my paddle. And that's what I expected. So it hasn't fallen short of my expectations. So that's a really good thing. I can tell you that it's quite steady, and the steering mechanism works quite well. One thing that I am feeling is no fatigue at all in my upper body. But as I was paddling for about 20 minutes non-stop, you start to kind of feel it in your legs, right? It's kind of like riding a bike, and you haven't ridden a bike in a while. You certainly haven't done this in a while, that's almost for sure, unless you own one of these and you're doing it all the time. Or you own a recumbent bicycle or something like that, right? So you do feel it, but hardly. Just kind of like, you're like, oh, yeah, you know, your heartbeat's raising a bit, and you're like, well, this is good. It's a good thing. It's not like a bad fatigue, all right? So I'm going to keep booting along here. I'm getting into some small, narrow water, and we'll see how it maneuvers. By the way, the rudder works very well. It turns right in. I'm like, here, watch behind me. I'm going to turn to my right. I'm turning that way. And you can kind of tell that I'm kind of turning around here, and pretty quickly. Now, it's not quite like the Mirage, the newest Mirage drives from Hobie, where you can actually change the angle of thrust. All right, you can't do that with this one. This one just goes straight ahead, and it's relying on the rudder to turn, which I'm doing right now, of course. But some of the newer, you know, if you want to pay $7,000, then you too can have your own whatever Mirage drive it is that can go that way and that way. Not just forward, and it can go backwards as well. All right, so this is kind of an all-around good machine so far for the money that you're paying. Let's put it through some more tests. Okay, one more thing I can tell you. I should have known this. It's a bit of a dunce cap I feel I should be wearing right now, because the handles on the side of the kayak, when I first saw them, I thought that it would be just for maneuvering better on dry land, like maybe somebody helping you carry it in a different way other than using the front and the back. You can use the side, or for one person to kind of, you know, pull it off a vehicle and kind of walk with it to the water. And it can be, definitely they can be used for that. But what I've discovered is once you start pedaling, you kind of want something to hold on to. You don't want to just do this, right? If you hold on to the handles on the side, which are right where they need to be, you can get some really good leverage. So that's really what they're for, I'm positive. Nobody says that, but that's what they're for. All right, so I've got a couple more observations, and that is that the deck here, I don't know if you can see, but right here between my feet here, between my legs, is sort of, you know, the main deck. You put your feet here when you stand, and it is getting wet for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why. Could be something leaking from a scupper hole or a scupper plug, I don't know. And this little compartment here, water drips in over, I don't know if you can see it very well, but anyway, I got a camera in here, and every time I open it, a little bit of water drips in. I'm not even sure where the water's coming from, but at any rate, it exists, and
It's not a huge problem at this point, but anyway, it's just something I noticed. Nowhere else on the kayak is wet. The front, the back, everything is nice. I've got some of my camera equipment behind me because in front of me, I don't even trust it. So guys, I haven't made it back to the dock yet, but I'm gonna give you my overall impressions right now. And that is that for the price of just over $2,000 retail, this is one of the better deals you can buy, only because of the fact that it's manageable. It's 10.5 feet long. If I could change something, I would try to make it just a tiny bit lighter based on the length, because compared to some other companies, this particular fishing kayak is around the same weight as some 12 or 13 foot long models even, and it's only 10.5 feet. So in a sense, that's good because it's stable. It's a little bit wider than most fishing kayaks, and so that's what would account for a lot of the added weight. All right, so one of the things that I really do like about this kayak is that I'm using my legs. All right, I'm not using my arms. I got a bit of an issue with my shoulder, so not everyone's going to be in the same position, but I still say that your legs are bigger muscles than your arms, so why not use them to their maximum advantage? And the other thing is you're not going to get as wet from the drips. It's one of the things that kayak paddlers don't talk too much about, is the drip. They do talk, there is some discussion about it, but overall, it seems to be one of these things that people kind of ignore. The reality is, there's drips, and they drip all over your thighs and so on. Even sit-in kayaks, oftentimes the cockpit hole area is not big enough to cover your legs, and so your thighs are still getting wet. So anyways, I do like the pedal drive, and I like the fact that this particular model is not overly long and awkward to manage on my vehicle. So I think that this is going to be my choice eventually when I review a couple more fishing kayaks, and then I'm going to make a decision on which one I'm actually going to own. All right, guys, I hope that has been helpful for you. I've enjoyed taking the Winner Colossus Pro Angler, or Angler Pro, out on the water, and I appreciate you coming along with me. Guys, if you like reviews like this and maybe get some benefit out of it, please do give me a like and a subscribe. No skin off your back, and YouTube loves it when you do give me a like and a subscribe, and I can make more videos like this, right? You know the deal, right? And guys, until the next time I find myself a kayak that I can get out on the water with, I need you to get out there, enjoy the beauty of God's creation, and keep on looking up.